Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I am your host, Ben Thomas. Today's conversation features really one of my favorite verticals and applications of our technology, and that is in the world of mission critical applications, whether you want to call it control rooms, whether you want to call it security access control centers or real-time crime centers. That world sort of encompassed in this conversation. And really, one place I want to focus today too is in the world of utilities, because I think it's one of the places that there's just naturally some ambiguity between that world, which is dominated by a little bit more of the public and private sector side of things, and certifications and all sorts of different requirements that exist outside of maybe some traditional, what I'll call AV applications. And I know my guest doesn't love that I'm using the word AV today, and we'll ask him why here in just a second. But that's Tyler Bonner from Diversified, who helps run all the mission critical side of things over there. Tyler, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, Ben, thank you for having me. Don't use the word AV.
Well, I mean, that's going to be the first question, right? And it's funny, we say it in jest sometimes, but I think AV has become this word that we use in our almost the infocom communities, right? AV doesn't mean what we think it means outside of our community. So I've got to ask, why is it a little bit of a dog whistle for you?
Yeah, I think that dog whistle, I like it. I think that the connotation that the two letters A and V put forth in front of our customers is not very well received. I think it kind of cheapens what we do, commoditizes what we do, and I think when you're approaching customers who are especially in this space, who are maintaining some of the most critical infrastructure in our community, that you have to understand that they're leveraging video, which is the V, obviously, but they're doing it for visualization purposes. It's a meaningful part of their daily operation, and AV is certainly a very broad term, and how it kind of boils down and is leveraged inside some of these critical applications. You just got to be mindful. I mean, most of the stuff, the AV legacy of AV is, segregated audio video or AV LAN networks. That's not the case anymore. We're all running across networks, from the broadcast all the way through to the display and consumption of video. It's done over an IP network now. So we're really, network visualization is where I kind of think of us as being.
Well, hey, I like that. Network visualizations, integrated technology, whatever you want to call it. I'll tell you what, we are a community of folks really who build and install and design technology that's impactful far beyond the reaches of our traditional industry. And I appreciate that context, because one of the places that our technology reaches to is that world of mission critical applications and that world of secured utilities, as evidenced by shows like Distributech, even partially shows like ISC West and GSX. You see some crossover there as well. ICRA, also a great organization and show that folks can attend in that space. But I want to ask, on a high level, what sort of applications are you seeing folks, especially in that mission critical world, leveraging traditional integrated technology for? Is it mostly access control? Is it command and control spaces? Is it a combination of both? IT security, cybersecurity? What? Just kind of give us a lens. What does that look like typically?
Yeah, I mean, specific to the power utility world, and frankly, water. It's a utility, as is natural gas. The video component of what they're doing is far-reaching. It's truly, I mean, certainly is the traditional means of security operation, or security cameras being pulled back into some kind of security console. But those security cameras can also be in a substation, as an example. And those cameras can not only serve as security, they can also be life safety. If you think about linemen and workers who are moving into those substations on a daily basis, having some eyes on them as they're in there working, it's another layer of security from a life safety perspective. So it's more than just the access control and the security element of these technologies. It's really, how can they leverage this in a more meaningful way? Another really interesting thing, and it's pretty logical, are drones. Lots of transmission lines running across our nation and North America. It's could be timely and dangerous, frankly, for people to go out there and inspect these transmission lines. So leveraging drone video and pulling that back into control rooms is a really clever way and widely used way of monitoring these transmission lines for, their safety and making sure that they're up and running and providing you and I a reliable source of power on a daily basis.
Well, I love that you even mentioned kind of outside of what I would call the nucleus or the control room, applications of drone surveying and obviously even just things like essential critical communications, right? Whether that's a radio or a transmission or whatever. There's so many different applications. So, Tyler, one of the things that we've seen pretty dramatically across all of our technological industries is kind of the evolution of the decision maker, of the buyer, applications, things like that. And when you think utilities, at least in my mind, I typically go towards public sector, right? So more government applications, municipalities, things like that. But there are applications on the private sector side as well. But what would you say just from a typical maybe utility buyer, whether it's a command and control room or security, installer, buyer, what does that normal profile look like? And does it skew maybe towards one side or the other?
Yeah, it does. And again, this is, across the 3 or 4 different utility vertical segments that there are. You typically find your buyers on the operational technology side of the organization, not the IT side of the organization, where I think you find most of your AV buyers. So people who are consuming the type of technology that we deploy with our vendor partners are really going into an operational facility, operations center, and they're monitoring some of the most critical applications that are, again, sustaining the way of life that you and I enjoy on a daily basis: power, electric management systems, SCADA, any kind of industrial monitoring, GIS applications. So it's more of an operational buyer versus your typical IT or administrative buyer in the traditional AV space.
Well, what sort of burden, though? So obviously you work for Diversified, fantastic company, one of the biggest integrators in the world. How does that responsibility as an integrator change, right? When you talk about the IT side of things, typically there's some level of education and understanding, right? Whether it's basic signal flow, whether it's, device management, things like that. On the operational decision-making side, how does that change the responsibility of the integrator? Is it far more hands-on? Are you dealing with a lot more hoops to jump through? Is there more education? What does that look like?
Yeah, you bet. That's great point. The migration of AV from segregated networks into the mainstream IP world, it creates a lot of consternation for our customers, because now you're pushing video streams across a network. Not so much a bandwidth issue concern anymore. We've done really good with compression algorithms, and bandwidth is largely available. But at the end of the day, they're very concerned about the roles and permissions placed on that video and how it's being consumed. So certainly you get involved with a lot of conversations with IP minded people, very network savvy, very firewall oriented, if you will, very concerned about compliance reporting on a monthly basis. If you're in the power transmission world, you've got to report to your local ERO and make sure that you are remaining within compliance for the operation of the bulk transmission system. So you've got to have a plan not only for the implementation of that technology, which is typically going to have some kind of operating system which has to be updated and patched on a monthly or regular basis. There's also a reporting mechanism to that, and that can be very, very burdensome with a lot of technology that really isn't researched and developed for this segment. So we're oftentimes in the control room space taking technology from that's maybe leveraged in a more corporate environment, like a conference room or even a lobby with a video wall, and we're trying to push that into a control room and making sure that it's not only able to be reported on a monthly basis, but is stable. It's not compromising the security of that operation. It's a large responsibility that we hold as the integrator to make sure that they are not being compromised, and they will put you through the paces, customers will, to ensure that they are not going to receive fines from their local ERO, and those fines can be very, very expensive. So it's not only the money part of it, it's the sustainability of the power. So it's just a different level of commitment.
Well, it's no secret, right? I mean, you look at integrators across our industry, whether it's folks looking to gain more traction in residential, mission critical security, things like that. One of the things that we've historically battled as we try and find our way into these different places is that we assume a lot of these markets are naturally very similar, right? But when you start talking mission critical and you start talking safety, access control, utility security, things like that, it's no longer. I'll go back to the example you used a second ago, which is the kind of the conference room. Downtime in a conference room is an annoyance. Downtime in a mission critical application is literal life or death, right? And I think that people miss that connection when even just exploring what it looks like to be in the mission critical side of things. What are some of the challenges, maybe in some of the things too, that you guys have been proactive on, and whether it's from a support side, whether it's from a maintenance standpoint, what are some of the things that people don't realize that you have to support as an integrator, whether it's compliance, whether it's, almost 24/7 availability for patches and things like that? What are some of those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit on honestly, and it's not that complex. It's, again, a commitment to being able to serve that 24/7 by 365 customer. I regularly get calls on weekends when technology fails. It fails. Technology fails. And we know that going into the deal, into the project. Customer understands that, so you've got to have a plan to support it. And fortunately, Diversified has done a really good job building a great support organization globally. We truly have a huge commitment to making sure that the technology that we deploy is not only well employed and able to be supported, but we've got a huge commitment to being responsive to our customers 24/7. Help us. I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch, but I think these are important factors necessary to supporting this type of customer. And it's honestly a detraction for many AV integrators in getting into serving mission critical command and control types of environments as a business. Mission critical environments was an investment by Diversified many years ago to help us grow. But the investment was not only in the people and then the education, but in the service component. Make sure that we were up for the challenge that comes along with answering a call on a weekend at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then responding to that in an expeditious way. So it does require another level of commitment that most integrators are not willing to kind of jump into.
Well, it doesn't even stop on the integrator side, right? There's a lot of folks on the manufacturer and service provider standpoint who are trying to find different revenue streams, and mission critical and applications seems like a really good place to get into. But even going back to the point you made just a second ago, it's not, technology, yes, will fail, right? I think that that's a given. But I don't think people, especially the manufacturers, quite realize in mass that there are certification requirements, there are uptime requirements, there are service requirements that you have to have in these mission critical applications. And as somebody who gets to be at the end of the line and have those conversations with the end user, what do you wish manufacturers knew about trying to get into that space instead of trying to shoehorn maybe some existing technology that works in house of worship and works maybe in education technology, but totally doesn't work or match in that world of mission critical applications?
Yeah, I mean, you're really kind of pointing towards some of the processing world, not so much the display world, although it can be a component of this thought process. But the people who like the Barcos of the world, who are building mission critical specific applications for visualization tools, you've got to be thinking about not only 24/7 operation. The product has to be well built, sustainable. It's got to be manageable. And so if you can only imagine that the number of devices that these utilities, the number of sensors and the devices that these utilities are having to manage on a daily basis, both security as well as operational devices, it's just overwhelming. So to add on additional video devices too that they have to manage, it can take them over the top. So making the technology nimble and easy to be managed is a big deal. And so, what I see people like Barco moving towards is embedded operating systems that truly make the device appliances with a software wrapper that allow us as the integrator working with the customer to really, it's a blank canvas when we start with them, and we start to make this technology work within their environment. And so it puts the the art of the possible in our hands working with the customer. The technology just has to be sustainable. It needs to work. It's kind of like an iPhone. You've got iPhones or Androids, and you layer apps on top of it that make you and your device work for you. Not indifferent in this control room world. We need to make these facilities and these technologies work for different situations that these operators are going to be in. And so having good hardened technology that is not only easy to mold, but also very sustainable is absolutely two key components.
Well, and I want to stick on manufacturers here for a second, right? And I'm sure we've got a handful of folks listening that are mulling whether or not to even make the jump and create stuff that is applicable in the space. What sort of hardening requirements and certification requirements are common in the space?
Yeah, I think probably the most common, at least here in the U.S., are TAA compliance, and that's a pretty widely known platform for manufacturers to work up towards, and basically it's just ensuring that the products that are being deployed inside our critical infrastructure here nationally are made in trade-friendly countries and not coming from countries that could potentially have an interest in doing harm to our national infrastructure. So that's probably the key, and it's not a technology hardening component necessarily, but it's a compliance requirement. But that's probably one of the number one talking points we have with customers when we're starting to enter into a conversation is the products that you're providing, are they TAA compliant? I do think that the manufacturers have to think about support, though. I get a lot of comfort in understanding that our manufacturer partners have been around a while, and financially they have good stability. We look at that when we're making decisions for our customers and presenting manufacturers to our partners, to our customers. We want to make sure that manufacturer is sustainable and a strong business. In the event that the customer decides that they want to move away from my company or any of our AV partners and competitors out here, if they want to make a move, they shouldn't be held victim or held ransom to the integrator that they use to install. And I think the same way. If Diversified doesn't install and there becomes an issue, maybe we go out of business. I want to make sure that the partner that's with us is going to be there to help support that customer for years to come. So I think there's not only a technical component of that answer, but there's also a business and commercial component of that answer as well.
Well, look, as the liaison really between the customer and end user and the manufacturer, the integrator takes a lot of that responsibility, right? Not only to test the gear, make sure it works, but also be an advocate, be prescriptive for the client. One of the things that integrators, even in general, have to have conversations about, especially from a proactivity and long-term value standpoint, is having conversations about AI integration, IoT integration. What role, especially from a diversified standpoint, do you guys play in proactivity to make sure that not only we're meeting the needs of the customer right now, especially from mission critical application, but also meeting the needs of 5-10 years down the road before they want to turn their entire system over?
Yeah, and you hit on some really interesting points there. First of all, control rooms are being built for that period of time, 7 to 10 years. A control room should last a customer that long. And if you think about that, the number of changes, not only from a people perspective, but from an application perspective, from an administration or a regulator's perspective, a lot's going to change over that 7 to 10 year period. So again, the technology needs to be nimble and able to be adaptable. IoT, machine learning, AI. I think of AI as assistive intelligence, not artificial, inside these control rooms. And I don't think that the control room operators, these people I talked about earlier, are necessarily ready to just turn the keys over to AI, artificial intelligence, and let it run the control room. I just don't ever see that happening. I do see, however, a huge migration towards the correlation of the data that has absolutely inundated the operators. And so when we design these control rooms, we start at the operator and move out. We want to work with our partners, our design partners, our friends, partners to make sure that this environment is great for the operator sitting inside these spaces. And if you think about the life of an operator, if they're working there for 10, 15, a career, years, they're going to see a lot come and go during that period of time. And what oftentimes happens is you've got a leader that's got an idea about an application. He rolls that application out, and those operators have to manage that application. Well, the next leader comes in and he has an application. People come to become dependent upon these applications, but now they've got a proliferation of them and don't understand how they all correlate. So there's an interesting opportunity for us to move kind of behind the glass, if you will, and help our customers start to make sense of all of this data. Again, sensor fusion, get all of these sensors out in the field, coming back at the operator, showing them information and trying to help them make decisions, and good decisions is an absolute next step for our business.
Well, look, you brought up control room operators. That I feel like can be its own conversation. That might be a tease. I heard rumors that might be a conversation that you guys are having on your show coming up soon. But it's so interesting, just even from a high level. I think as an industry, it's great to see folks like you guys, right? And this is not sponsored by nobody's paying me to say this, right? But I think Diversified and a handful of folks have done such a good job of being frontline advocates in a lot of these industries, because there aren't many people, and there's some fantastic manufacturers. I know you mentioned Barco's out there doing it as well. Shout out Dan Gundry doing some fantastic work in the space. But there are very few people who are willing to have those frontline conversations because they're tough. There is a lot of market education. There are a lot of, you have to ask a lot of questions of users. And I love to see, especially you guys, like I said, over at Diversified, being willing to ask those questions and have those conversations. Because look, whether you know it or not, you guys are bringing us into some of these places that our industry continues to expand to. So that's a big thank you for me, because I know that's one of the things that I see a long-term success with in our industry is continuing to grow in those areas. And I can tell you, I already appreciate the conversations and a lot of the groundwork that you guys have laid. You even specifically for places like DistribuTech, for places across even just access control and mission critical security, all sorts of different places. So big thank you for me. But look, we've got to have that conversation in the future about the operator experience. That's a whole conversation in itself. But Tyler, man, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And thank you so much for tuning in as well. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check us out next time on Pro AV Today.